Hello, everybody. You have tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover virtually any aspect of making a murderer. I go over the evidence, the documents, the photos. So if you like, stay tuned, and in the future I'll have many more videos besides the one you're about to see. Hey everybody, how you doing today? Today we're here because I had a little discussion with Miss Lisa Szatkowski, who some of you may know. She is an admin in of one of the larger Making a Murderer groups on Facebook. This group has a lot of good information all the time. There's generally always a pretty good discussion going on somewhere in there about the case. And there's, like I said, a lot of posts in there that they bump often, or when they're most relevant with the evidence that's currently coming out. They have a lot of stuff in there that's very, very helpful, that they call albums, but it's basically just posts that are all about the same kind of aspect of the case, so that it makes certain things easy to find and use or whatever, or see to make sure of something, or check whatever you're needing to check. If it's like checking dates on documents or whatever it is, you can generally, if you're with these what they call albums, you can generally get to what you're looking for a little quicker because everything's organized in such a way. So anyway, I think it's among the biggest Making a Murderer groups on Facebook. It's a pretty good one. So we had a little discussion about the case, and obviously a little bit about the rally, and just kind of the best way for those, for all of us to try to conduct ourselves on social media and stuff. You know what I mean? When it comes to disagreeing with people, it's good to disagree, and it's good to have defined in yourself that certain things are unacceptable and everything, but it's not always the best way to go about trying to change or help. The best way isn't always to go with a big stick and start, or hit it with a bigger hammer. Sometimes hitting it with a bigger hammer, as an analogy, hitting it with a bigger hammer is not the answer. Sometimes finesse is, or understanding actually goes a little bit further. Now, you may not convince everybody. You gotta accept that. You gotta accept that some people won't accept what you're saying or what you show them, but some people will, and they may not absolutely agree with you 100% about 100% on everything you think. But if you show them something that they previously thought was factual, and you show them that it isn't, then that's just one more card out of the house of cards, as it were, that represents their guilt in that person's mind. So that's the key fact. But if you are combative about it, those people will shut themselves off to you and entrench themselves deeper, and be less likely to think beyond their current thinking. You see, it's tricky, but when you really want to influence people and you really want to get them looking at what matters and what's important, it's better to just be straight honest and frank and respectful. People will respond to that a lot better than they will to strong language or statements or accusations. It goes a little bit further if we have understanding and perhaps a little diplomacy. So we talk a little bit about a lot these things in this video, along with certain aspects of the case, like Brendan's coercion, and we talked about the recent Dateline episode that just aired a couple nights ago. They re-aired that episode, and so we just kind of go over a few things here. We talk for a little while, so we'll just get on into it. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
So, one of the things I was going to say, or wanted to talk about a little bit, because recently, Miss Carla Garcia, everybody knows Carla Garcia. I love Carla. She came upon this podcast called Conspired, and They do different episodes. They kind of go between true crime and kind of paranormal, kind of like I would call like ghost hunters kind of stuff. So they kind of go between. They did one about the Avery case, and Miss Carla Garcia listened to it, and she was immediately tagging me and saying, look at this, and can you believe what they're saying in here? And I listened to it, and I got what I understood what Carla was upset about. Like I got what was getting under her skin about it, and it was because this podcast was made, and it was these two people who, one person really had no extensive knowledge of the case. He kind of had watched MAM, but he hadn't really gone much further until they were going to do this episode, and then he went and looked some stuff up online, and then she went and looked up some stuff online right before they did this episode, and she went right for the Ken Kratz BS. She went straight for it. The things that MAM left out, all those things all came from the desk, an email that Ken Kratz sent. We now know that those are, most of them at least, are full of crap. And the rest is questionable. Certainly, there is no such thing as sweat DNA. Kratz was only saying sweat DNA because he wanted to play off of the emotion it would cause, because it would play back to his press conference where he was talking about the sweaty Stephen Avery sweating down the hallway with sweat all over, sweat, right? It's going to play back to that and bring up that imagery for the people that are in that area. It's going to bring up that imagery for them. And that's what it is, a ploy. He's playing on people's fears and emotions, but he's doing it in a stupid way because there is no such thing as sweat DNA, so it makes him look like an idiot. Because he's a prosecutor. I'm sure this wasn't the first case where he had to deal with sweat or DNA or epithelial cells, or I'm sure he knew the difference. So him issuing these statements saying they left this out, well, what you're talking about doesn't even exist, Mr. Kratz. Anyways, so anyways, they did these things where they covered these topics by Ken Kratz, and so I immediately tweeted back and told them, I was like, well, we're gonna go ahead and do a video because they invited you in the podcast. If you have a difference of opinion with us or whatever, you want to show us something or give us some proof of something, go ahead. I said, okay. So I tweeted back, okay, I'm going to do a video and show you guys some of the proof of some of those things that you're talking about were left out that are actually just dead wrong. And so me and Carla made the video. I threw in the documents and the pictures of the bullet and why the bullet's a complete BS, right? And all that. And so whatever. And they ended up blocking everybody else except for me. And this kind of bummed me out, right? It allowed them to get the video from me, which they watched because they didn't block me, which they watched. And then they even mentioned me in their most recent podcast. Well, they didn't mention me by name. They talked about the situation that happened. Okay. So they were not too thrilled with the way some of the supporters of Stephen and Brendan kind of reacted to them, which, okay, I don't like drama either, so I can kind of go along with, okay. And the thing is that I wanted to talk about is as MAM, as Stephen and Brendan supporters, we all kind of have a responsibility to conduct ourselves with a certain, kind of poise. You don't want to seem, how if you're complaining about the way guilters act or treat you when you go into certain places or troll you when you go into certain places, you got to keep in mind that if you do that to somebody else at some point, you're just as bad. So if you can't learn to accept that somebody else has a different opinion than you without fighting with them, like without just straight up, locking horns. I mean, I didn't convince this guy from the podcast. I didn't convince him, but he is now thinking about some of the things he didn't realize before. And when he talks about this case in the future, it's gonna be in his head and it's gonna come out. And so that's what I was looking to do, is to inform their future podcast. And that's something the reason I bring all this up is that I think that's something that everybody could use. Because if you go out there and just speak softly and don't act like a jerk until it's time. When it's video time, you can be a little bit, arrogant or whatever and make your points. But beyond that, try to be respectful. Try to just understand that other people, they just have their own way of thinking too, and you got to respect that. This guy, I think, may someday, especially in the coming month, when there's, so much talk about there's going to be some big developments this month. Maybe by the end of this month, Jerry's going to be seeing some of the things he saw in the news, thinking about some of the things he saw in my video, and he's going to be, maybe there's more to this. Maybe I do. Maybe I was a little quick to judge, and that's that's the best I could hope for. But clearly, that girl Natalie didn't like what I had to say very much. So
yeah. Well, that's what happens when you don't search.
Or listen, did you listen to it?
I listened to yours. I didn't listen to theirs.
I see.
I didn't really have time, but I did listen to yours. I actually was up till 4 o'clock in the morning watching yours. So,
right.
yeah.
Well, thank you. I feel special. Yeah, you stayed up that late for me.
Well, I wanted to get to it. And it was later, and I thought, well, I don't want to wake up the husband, and I couldn't sleep, and I was, but I want to get to it, and so I did. Thankfully, I could wake him up. So
right
it was very good. It was excellent. You both did very well.
Yeah, I was. I was so awesome to do that with Carla. She had a little bit of fears about it, right, going into it. So when this happened, and she's tweeting me and everything, we've exchanged phone numbers, so she's texting me, and she's like, hey, these guys, I can't believe this. Oh, we need to do a video. She was fired up, and it was like the fear dissipated. I'm like, okay. I was doing something, but I'm like, okay, wait, no. Hey, everybody, I gotta go make a video. So I was like, oh, let's go, because I wanted to strike while the iron was hot, because I wanted her to get over that hump of the fear. And that was the thing that was going to help her get over that hump. So it was really great. My friend Paul, he also is promoting me doing more conversations with everybody, which I think is an awesome thing. I want to hear from as many people are willing to talk about this case as possible. And so
me and said, hey, why don't you talk? I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that was cool. That was cool that I got the invite. Thank you very much. And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're also kind of there local to the area, and so you kind of understand some of the aspects that those of us in the wider world may not, fully, grasp or whatever. So that kind of gives you a kind of, on the ground kind of knowledge there in Wisconsin. I know that ever since I've been involved with, these Facebook and everything, I've seen your name everywhere. Before I even knew you, I used to see your name,
I was wondering how you got into doing the videos.
That's a story that involves Mr. Johnny Jack Smith. Do you remember Johnny Jack Smith?
Yes.
I love Johnny. He was a great guy. He still is a great guy, but he's had to back away from the whole true crime and MAM stuff. But he was the one that I was friends with in the beginning, and of course everybody knows Johnny was doing the videos. He did the one about the Colburn call, where he slowed down the audio, where you can really hear somebody say, "The car's here" or "Car's here." That video where he slowed that down. That video ended up getting 500,000 hits.
Wow.
Yeah. So. That was a big deal, and I remember I was friends with him, and he would always tell me when he was working on a video, and I was always ready to start sharing it. I remember when he did the one, he had a llama on his property had died, and there was a big rainstorm, and the lake flooded, and the llama got stuck in the mud and ended up not being able to get out, and so he had to obviously get rid of it, and so when he had to burn off his brush and everything that had been building up, he went ahead and just burned it in there. Well, it showed that the bones, after that intense of a fire, and it was huge. This thing was a huge fire. He put it through twice, and the bones looked, kind of maybe rounded a little bit, but they were still the same size, shape, not much changed about them after 2 fires. And it's like, so how are we to believe that Teresa's bones degraded to the level that they did, that we see in those boxes, right? How come these bones aren't doing like that after 2 very, very hot fires? So yeah, that was a good video. Anyway, to get to what drew me, what got me doing videos is Johnny eventually said, you know what? why don't you do a video? You know, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I was scared, you know, just like everybody else. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
everybody else. I was like, I had some trepidation about it. I was just kind of like, okay. I knew that once I make it, it's like everybody can see it, and then you know, I was talking myself out of it in my head. But eventually, he was to do a video about Brendan, and I was studying the November 6th interrogation of Brendan at the time. The one where Officer O'Neill makes the very specific promise, you know, that I need you to stop thinking about going to jail, blah 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 blah, because that isn't going to happen. Yeah, that one. So I eventually, after a couple weeks, I went and got the software for it. I bought the software and I made my first Brendan video. That was the one where I was taking bits from that interrogation and putting it on the screen, and then in between I was talking about it and everything like that. And that was what got me started. And once I did that, the video got, for somebody just starting out, I felt it did pretty well. It got over like 400 or 500 views, you know, when I was just nobody yet. So I was like, okay. And then I started making more Brendan videos, and then eventually I had some things I wanted to say about Steven, and it just, once I got to the point where I saw like for instance, the misinformation from Ken Kratz, things that, or like every time Tom Fassbender goes on Nancy Grace or any other show, Dr. Oz or Dr. Phil or whatever, every time I have to say something, because they are spreading, they are continuing to tell their lies in the present day, and all I can do is continue to project whenever they do it, and continue to project the truth and the facts and the documents that prove it every time they do, in the hopes that more and more people will see it, until the tide begins to turn, you know, where people will stop just accepting what Ken Kratz and Tom Fassbender say and question it. That's all I need the point for people to reach. You know, people that don't yet believe that this was an injustice, that's the only point I need them to get to, is to want to be asking questions, to no longer be certain, but to be wanting to know more. And that, I think, is the huge difference. And that was really mainly what drives me to keep making my videos, and to keep digging and finding more information, things that people need to know, if they really do want to see Steven and Brendan get justice. These are things you need to know, and they're buried deep in the documents. And we got people like TikTok Manitowoc over on Twitter, and 7 Pairs of Panties on Twitter and Reddit, and Cadaver Dog Brutus, and all these people on Twitter and everything else that are digging in, and they're always getting into that information that saves you. If you just follow them and check in on them every once in a while, it saves you hours of having to read documents, because they're going to show you what's important. And they do it because they love it, and they do it because they want people to know.
Yeah, I actually grab a lot of their stuff from Twitter. When I have real super busy days or whatnot, I will go over there, grab that, and post it in group, you know, and I always give people credit. I always give props wherever I find something. I think that's important, you know, that they get all that hard work, and they should have that. So I always be sure to do that. Most of the time I ask if I can share it. Sometimes I just grab it and then I'm like, oh wait, I should have asked. And but I try to behave. But so I do a lot of work, and I do a lot of fluff work. You know, I try to keep group interesting, and I don't want to say fun, because it's not I mean fun, yeah, but it's not what group is mostly for, you know. But I do want to keep people there interested in our cases, you know, and want to stick around to see what's coming next. You know, so I do a lot of that, whereas Terry and Kathy, they do like the research, you know, and Mark had done all the research, and, you know, and the Will, and I mean, all these people, they just pitch in, and they have their own little things that they do, you know. Joyce, she grabs all of his owner's tweets and puts them in there, and the other lawyers, and I mean, everybody's got a part, and they do so awesome. And that's how, like, you have your part where you make the videos for us, and we post those in the group, you know. And
I'm happy actually to try to attempt to explain the documents to people, because I know that these motions and these the way that these lawyers talk, I know it makes some people's heads spin. I get it. I understand it, I probably don't speak the lingo as well as well,
That's the one.
I know I don't speak the
Yeah,
lingo as well
yeah,
as Drizzen would like.
yeah.
But but I if I dumb it down, then I dumb it
Yes,
down. But I make it easy for
yes,
people to understand. I make it palatable,
yes.
for
That's
people
what
that
I,
haven't had years of
yes,
going to school to be a lawyer. Because I get the concepts of it. I get the idea. I understand the rules of why things have to go a certain way. It makes sense to me. I don't always think those rules make sense.
yes,
Sometimes I think those rules aren't quite so, making so much sense, but most of the time, 90% of the time, those rules are well meaning and they do a very, very, unique, purposeful thing that needs to be done. But yeah, things like Denny, things like, like a judge like Willis, like flat out denying that the erased or the deleted voicemails on 11-1 had any relevance to the case. I'm sorry, Judge Willis. What kind of a defense is the defense running? What kind of defense was it again? Oh yes, I remember. It was a planting and framing defense,
yes.
Judge Willis. So how is something happening with the victim's phone a day after she died
Not
not
relevant.
relevant? And the
Yep.
fact that it hasn't been investigated, how is that not relevant?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I
Absolutely
think Willis.
beyond. The,
I think
the jury
Willis.
never heard about the deleted voicemails, though. I mean, you understand that. They were
Yes.
excused. So they never
Hmm.
ever heard about that. Would it have
Yep.
affected some of their minds if they had heard it?
Yep. Yep. Most definitely. Not likely. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think that you got to understand what people don't understand around here. This area is so small, and
right.
everybody knows everybody. At least here in my town, But Manitowoc is not that much bigger,
Right.
and everybody knows everybody, and they're friends with each other or they're family with each other. I mean,
Right.
look at the jury. Look at
Right.
how big it was. That was really something. Um, so people don't realize that when they come from bigger places. So there's a lot at stake here. I mean,
yeah.
Willis could have been friends with somebody for all we know, or I mean, my goodness, it was his county that was going to be paying out megabucks. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's our
Right.
state that's going to be paying out megabucks. As much as I love living here, I love Wisconsin. It's beautiful here, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, we owe Stephen and Brendan mega bucks.
Yeah.
If we go bankrupt, it's okay because they are due this money. They really are. We'll figure out a way to exist.
Well,
I'll move away. Yeah.
the more important thing is to root out the cancer that's causing it. That's
Mm-hmm.
really, and that's why I love Tracy Coe, because Tracy Coe is all over that. She
Yes.
is all over that.
Yes.
She is all about getting into the politics and getting the people in politics in power that are going to turn things around in a criminal justice sense in Wisconsin. And that, I love her. She's awesome. I every time I go on Twitter and I see her tweets, I'm like, yep, that's a retweet. That's a retweet. That's a
Yeah.
retweet.
I know. I know.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
she's
all
awesome.
over Scott Walker, Governor Walker. She wants him gone,
Oh
gone,
yeah,
gone, gone.
me too.
He's,
I don't.
he's a Republican, so it's hard for me because I'm Republican.
Right.
But I'm still not sure what I'm going to do there. I do want the guys free. Don't get me wrong, but I want
Yeah.
other big things also that mean a
Well,
lot to me
yeah.
to happen. But I still want the guys free.
It's obviously easy for me sitting here where I am, not in
Yeah,
Wisconsin,
yeah,
and to
yes,
say, yeah, I don't like what Scott Walker's doing, and I want him out. Obviously,
yeah,
you're there, and there's other concerns. I can imagine. I know what you mean.
yeah.
So, but I'll say this: I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I actually don't like to identify with any party. Whoever's got the best idea,
Mm.
that's who I vote. That's
Who's
who I
going to
want.
legalize marijuana?
Sorry.
Who's going to legalize marijuana?
Oh right. Yeah, there we
I
go.
just say medical,
It's not
medical
Scott
marijuana.
Walker. I don't see
Not,
him doing it.
not.
Is that one of the suggested treatments for you? Cannabis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is actually. It does for pain relief.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
does
it would
suck.
work. It
I
would.
know it does a lot of good for a lot of people. I
Yeah,
know where I live, people that live with a lot of debilitating kind of pain, or at least just annoying constant pain in their lives, and they've been dabbling into the CBD and that kind of stuff, and they've been saying that it really really does do wonders.
It does.
So yeah, I would agree that that's probably going to be a hot button issue
Yeah.
because people do not like to be in pain. They
No.
certainly don't.
Well,
So
I think that is another thing. Like, I have the second most painful disease in the world. It's called Derkums, and so I am in pain a lot. And medication only helps so much, and TV only helps so much. But digging into the case and socializing and being in group and doing all that helps take
right,
my mind off of
keeping
it.
your mind busy.
And
Yeah.
yes, so most days I can function and be in group. You know, the days that I'm not, I'm probably medicated, and you don't want me on Facebook then because
Right.
over
Right.
I said really medicated. That is, I'm always medicated, but when I have to double up, then I get off Facebook because you never know what I'm going to say then.
Right.
I say something really dingy, you'd be like, "Are you medicated, Lisa?"
Sorry.
It helps,
Toodles.
yeah. Check it out. But it helps. It really does help. I think
Yeah.
the group and my friends that I have made some amazing friends through MAM. I wouldn't give in any of them away. You know,
Yeah.
I've become very close to many people.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
have too.
and
Yeah.
getting to talk to you. This is awesome.
Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you as well. Um, so I don't know. I guess we gotta discuss. I can edit out, obviously, but we gotta discuss anything else that you wanted to talk about.
Well, I don't know. I was wondering who I think, I'm sure you've said this in your videos, but I wanted to share with you, like, who I think did it. Who I think, are we
Okay,
allowed to say that?
you can. Yeah, you
Uh,
absolutely can offer your opinion. I choose not to
yeah,
say anything concrete myself. I just kind of look at the evidence and go, "This is wonky. That's wonky.
right,
That's off.
right.
That shouldn't be." So.
I right, yeah. Well, I was huge. You're gonna just don't look at me differently for saying this, but I was
Oh,
huge Edwards at first. I was like
oh,
really big into him, but then
right.
once I dug in and I looked at everything, then I'm like, yeah, no, 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 no. And then I went to Ryan, of course, to the
Right.
ex boyfriend Ryan, Hilgess, and then but now
I
honestly with
certainly
every all
haven't
the
ruled Ryan out. He's still
yeah,
on the list.
he's on my but I am leaning more towards law enforcement. I really think that law enforcement are the ones that killed her. And I think because the timing of it all, they had the opportunity. I think she was there at Stevens. I think she did. I know there's a lot of things that go back and forth. Did she go to Zippers first? Did she go to Zippers after? I
Yeah.
think she made it to Zippers. I think she made it there and then she got to Stevens later. I think that once she pulled out of Stevens, I think law enforcement pulled her over there.
Yeah.
I think that's where they ended up hitting her over the head or something at the back of the
Which
raft.
which isn't impossible when you think about it, because they were surveilling, for some reason they were surveilling the Avery salvage yard for like 2 days prior to Halloween. So that
Yeah.
is odd. Once
Well,
again, that's odd.
yeah, they want to something. They want to make this go away, and I think that's what happened. And I think they went and parked it over in that area where there were four witnesses that saw it over there on that one little itty bitty little part that goes off the road over there
Right, the
down the
turnabout
road. Yep,
by the bridge or something like that.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I've actually been there. I actually saw that. I was privileged enough to be with Mama D when we saw it.
Right.
I don't remember who else I was with, but and we were talking about it a little bit, and it's very feasible. And then I think later on they took it to the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that front end damage is somebody did an outline where it matched up perfectly to the gate at the quarry, all the front end damage. I don't know if you ever saw that material. I'm
Right.
sure you have seen everything, but I truly feel that damage on that RAV is from that gate. I think
Yeah.
they went there with their headlights off. They didn't see the gate. They went in there. I don't know if that's where they burned her or not, because that they would need an incinerator, I would think. You
Well,
know.
my opinion is Teresa. Her body was burned on Xander Road. That's
Okay.
I did a video about it, and I had to redo that video 3 times because it was such a difficult video to do, to try to draw together all the threads that I was drawing together in that video. But when you think about it, you can't deny the fact that you have these people, like, okay, think about most everybody who testifies for the prosecution. Think about their statements in court and how they match up to their statements 2 or 3 days after all this
Yeah.
happened, right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
all the with a good deal of the prosecution's witnesses, all the stories are different from when it was fresh in their mind. And to me, that's an indicator. When you have
Yeah.
that much of it happening, that
Mhm.
tells
Yeah.
you that they're playing with it. They're
Yeah.
they're coaching and they're changing the way that these people are thinking about it in their own minds so that
Mhm.
they end up saying what they want. Because, well, I'm going to use Scott Taddick as an example. Sorry, Scott. But his original statements are that that fire was 4 feet tall. It was like a 4 foot fire. Not, not crazy, not, whatever. It was only 4 feet or whatever. Then, in a later statement, that thing has grown to like 6 feet. Then, by the time he's in court, this fire is as tall as the roof of the garage. And it's like, this has to be the prosecution putting pressure on people to say the things that they want. That's what this has to be. Because why are so many people's statements doing that? And he's not the only one, but he's the best example.
Right.
But I mean, that's happening all over the place in this case. So how can we, how can we trust that? How can we trust anything that they say? It's a disturbing issue. I was gonna say that I noticed that they played the Dateline of the Avery Dateline episode or whatever. Like, was it last night or the night before? And I'll tell you what, I came into groups that night, and people were talking about why did they air it again? Oh my God, I hate that thing. Blah 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 blah. And it was interesting. I had an interesting experience about that episode airing. When I got back to work that day, my boss was sitting there at his computer, and he, when he's working, he has a TV up there that just kind of plays or whatever while he's working, and it's kind of like background noise for him and stuff. So when I walk in, he looks at me and he goes, "You see what's up there? You see that?" And I look up and I see Tom Fassbender. I'm like, "Oh, there's Tom Fassbender." I go, "Oh, you're watching the Avery thing?" He's all, "Yeah, it's on Dateline." And I go, "That's cool, right on," and everything. And then he looks at me, and he's got this like kind of look on his face, like he's ready to kind of get me about something, right? And I'm like, so I'm looking at him, and he goes, "How come you didn't tell me about this bullet they found in the garage?" And I go, Steve, Steve, there's a lot of stuff about this case that I've never said to you. I go,
but you want me
but
to tell you about that
if you
bullet?
want me
Let
to
me
talk
tell
about
you
the
about that
bullet,
bullet.
I'll talk
Yeah.
about the bullet.
Yeah.
Suddenly you see
Yeah.
the blood draining from his face. His feeling of like having the advantage, suddenly he's like shrinking. I go, I'll leave it at this. I'll leave it at this. That I go, you and I are in construction, right? You and I, we've both seen many, many times what happens when you break up concrete, right? That's because I'm putting it in terms you can understand. I go, you and I have both seen that and what it does. They jackhammered an entire crack in his garage, Steve, because thought they were going to find Teresa Halbach's blood in that crack. They didn't. That concrete dust covered everything. Okay. Now, other thing you need to keep in mind, Steve, is that a bullet that would have been used to kill Teresa would have been there before the jackhammering. That's by nature. She was killed on supposedly the 31st. The jackhammering happens after the 5th. So the bullet should be there when the jackhammering happens. So why then does the bullet look as though it's sitting on top of the dust? The dust is like underneath it and it's sitting on top of it, not sunken down into the dust. And the thing is shiny. It's like it has a sheen on it. Anything covered with concrete loses its sheen. There's no more sheen when it gets just a light coating of concrete dust. Sheen goes away. There's no more sheen. That's what concrete does. It's just a dull thing, and it makes everything look dull. That's what it does, when it's in powder form like that. So I go, so that's the case, Steve. I go, that bullet's shiny and sitting on top of the dust when it should have been there before the thing ever got jackhammered. I go, do you see the problem with the bullet? He's just like looking at me like, he's just kind of looking at me, and he's just like thinking about it, and he's all, okay, all right, kind of like acquiescing, like, okay, fine, that's a concern if what you're saying is true. I haven't sent him the pictures yet, but I'm going to. Actually, I think I'm gonna sit there with him one day and pull it up and go, check that out, dude. But that's what I thought was cool. But then check this out. So I leave the shop and I'm headed home, right? He calls me on the phone as I'm on the way home, and he goes, hey. I go, what's up? He goes, all right, I agree with you that Brendan was coerced.
Awesome.
Hallelujah.
Awesome. See,
that
that's
that
awesome.
episode convinced him. Finally, now he is absolutely concerned that Brendan was coerced, that was unfair. He even brought it up to me, saying, and this is for him, for the macho kind of guy he is. It was actually kind of, out of place really for him to say this, but he was like, I was thinking about what if that was one of my kids, or what if that was my kid in there in that room and they were doing that to him. He's like, he started to think about it in that personal way and thinking about how he would think if that was his kid there, and see how those police were leading him down the road, literally leading him down the road. And so he's now after watching that episode of Dateline, I hope they play that thing a lot more. Play that thing every day, all this month. I'm good with it. Because it totally convinced somebody that I would have thought would have really, I just never thought I'd get him to say that. He might have maybe felt it in the back of his mind, but I never ever thought I'd get him to say it. But he feels confident enough about it now that he actually broke down and called me and said, you know what, I agree.
Awesome. Well, you educated him, and now who is he going to go educate? And then who are they going to educate? And who are, and that's what we do. That's the role that we can play, you and I. We're not lawyers. We're not, there's nothing we can really do to help these men other than spread the word and get people to back them up and let the state know that we are not giving up on these men. Yeah. Yes, we believe in their innocence.
Trying to pull little shenanigans to try to make it go away. That's probably not going to work, guys, because you got a white hot spotlight. And if I have my way, you're never going to ever lose that white hot spotlight until you clean up your act.
We're not going away. We're not going away. That's why I think it's so important that people attend this next rally. I think that we need to show that we are strong, that there is a large number of us. I'm hoping that a lot of people come, not just the Wisconsinites. I know that Mark Hadnot, he's coming from Australia, for crying out loud. If he can make it,
want to go. I'm so busy. I'm trying to squeeze it in, but I have to see.
If you do, you better find me.
It's about a month, right? It's about a month.
Yeah, in June. Yeah. I just hope people can, and I understand people work, and not everybody's retired like me, and.
Right.
But I'm gonna go, even if I'm in a wheelchair. I'm going.
Yeah, I have to see how much a round trip ticket costs. And if I buy a ticket, my boss he'll maneuver it. It's on a Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually going to be Friday and Saturday this year. Taz is having to be 2 days.
So maybe I could leave on a Thursday. All right. Yeah. I'll have to look into that. I may go. I do want to go, and I do want to go. Mark was asking me if I was going to go. He wanted to see me there. I really do want to go. So this isn't just lip service. I'm trying to make it happen.
That's awesome.
That would busy. Be awesome. I'm just a really busy guy, not just making videos.
Well, hey, I had to get you tonight. You were working so much today. Yeah. Right. What else? I was gonna see if there was anything else I wanted to talk to you about, but I think I got a lot of it. I was gonna tell you that I have a bumper sticker on my car. I got it right away. And when I go to Manitowoc, the first time I went to Manitowoc was with my sister, and we were gonna meet Carla and Barb. And we were driving, and there were 2 patrol cars behind us following us. Oh, wow. And I busted out my phone, and I'm taking pictures, and I'm posting it in group. Guess what, guys? And it was very scary, and even now with stickers, going through even now, I'm still, I watch my limit. I do not speed through there. I'm very careful. But it's very scary, and I try not to go alone when I go there. Right. Usually if somebody's with me, when I go visit them. But,
to be honest, the thought crossed my mind when I thought about coming there for rally. I was like, okay, some people are going to be aware of what I do, and they are likely not to be very happy with me.
I know. I've had people be like, "Aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid to go through there? Because you are in the adminning and stuff." And I'm like, "No, I'm. If something happens, it happens. If it takes, I know it sounds really, really bad, but if it takes my death and them getting caught for my death, saying, hey, it happens,
or over the line with you in some way.
Right. Not that I want to be dead or anything. Don't get me wrong here.
Right. I mean, certainly death is over the line, but we can just settle with over the line. So.
Yeah. So, but I'm just, they're crooked. They're crooked cops here, and they're still there.
By the way, sorry, I've been meaning to ask the whole time. Is that the Brendan Dragonfly?
It is a Brendan Dragonfly. Yes. Awesome. Yeah. I'm actually making a necklace and earrings for the rally, so I'm pretty excited about that. I haven't made it yet, but I'm gonna be making one just for the rally.
Oh, right
I
on.
actually was into dragonflies years ago. It was my symbol. I love dragonflies. So when it became his, I was like, oh, awesome! I already got a jump start on everybody. I
Right.
have all sorts of dragonflies all over the house. You know?
I always like dragonflies
Yeah,
too. They were just so
yeah,
different looking compared to other
yeah.
bugs. They were just, I mean, they looked like alien almost. It was cool. Anyway.
So I've got a tattoo on my shoulder, a dragonfly tattoo, and
Right.
I always tell people I love them, but I don't love them when they land on me. You
Right.
know, they can stay off of me.
Right.
But they're pretty and I love them, but they can stay away from my body.
Yeah. Right. I was actually
Yeah,
trying to. I was actually trying to tweet to Imagine Dragons, trying to get them to say something. Actually, all I wanted was a response. I know I was asking if I could use part of one of their songs, but if they
that
said
was
no to that, I wouldn't have been heartbroken. I was
yeah,
hoping for just a response, and
yeah,
but
yeah.
it would be that kind of is what I mean. I would love to be able to use that for Brendan, because to me that song Thunder by Imagine Dragons is, and somebody actually told me that Brendan loves Imagine Dragons,
All the,
but that song is, I mean, where he talks about I was lightning before the thunder. That's the, you know, he's making that lyric, and that's the way I see Brendan right now. Brendan right now is the lightning, along with Steven. They've drawn the attention. They are the thing that everybody's looking at, and it's right
mm-hmm,
now. It's just looking right. We're just seeing the light from it, right? For me, Brendan becomes the thunder if SCOTUS corrects this.
yeah,
If the Supreme Court of the
yeah,
United States corrects this
mm-hmm,
goddamn ridiculous farce of justice here, or
yeah,
so-called justice, hopefully if they do, that's the thunder. That's the
yep,
thunder that's going to ripple across the United States and snap all these prosecutors and district courts and all of them, snap them all into line and go, no more bullshit. You
yep,
give the kids the special care. If you don't give them the special care, you're going to end up losing lots of money when they sue you. Basically, you know what I mean? Paraphrasing.
yeah,
Reading between the
right.
lines a little bit.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's what
yeah,
it'll come
yeah,
down to. We're not going to tolerate this crap anymore. We're gonna continue to say that this is incorrect, and if you don't snap into line, we'll do more.
yeah.
We'll come down on you some more. You know, that's what needs to happen, because there's clearly no special care with Brendan.
One of
There's
the things
none.
I do,
I don't see a
no,
single place in anything that happened with him at any point in during the investigation where he was given anything remotely resembling special care. Nothing
no,
at all. And
no,
so that really needs to be a factor, because
and
when you take the stat that we got from the Innocence Project in the amicus brief from the Innocence Network, it's basically just like all the Innocence projects together as one. That's what it's called, the Innocence Network. But in there, they state that the statistics of the current statistics of wrongfully convicted people, people who have been, their convictions have been overturned, among those who were juveniles with some mental limitations, 8 out of 10 of them gave false confessions.
isn't
Gave
that
Were coerced, basically. 8 out of 10. That's
mm-hmm,
80%. 80%. Brendan is part of that group, and we see this train wreck of an interrogation, a supposed confession, and it's not a confession. When does anything come from Brendan except when he says stuff like that she got stabbed or she got this? None of that can be corroborated. None of
right,
it.
right,
There's
right.
nothing ever that Brendan says in that confession that actually can be proven by evidence. At least nothing that wasn't fed. Nothing that wasn't
It could
fed.
be it could be disproven by lack of evidence.
Right.
Lack of blood spatter in the bedroom, or lack of anything in the
The
bedroom, for
fact
crying out loud.
that we don't have
You know?
Brendan's DNA anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Not even Brendan's. Not only is Teresa's DNA not in that bedroom, but neither is Brendan's.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And
Exactly.
how'd that happen? It's this
Exactly.
ferocious murder happened there. Yeah.
That's been one of my
Yeah.
biggest things that I tell people. The guilters tell you, "Oh, come on, you know Steven did it. Where's the crime scene?"
Yep.
Huh?
Exactly.
Crickets. Except for Thomas
Exactly.
Hentz. Oh God, Thomas Hentz has an answer, and it's ridiculous. And he says, "Oh, the fire pit's a crime scene. The burn barrel's a crime scene. Whatever." And I'm like, "You mean the places where the bones were dumped?" I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, whatever, Thomas. But most of them get quiet because they don't know what to say, because they know that there is no trace except for this bullet, this one bullet, tiny little bullet that had a trace of her on it somehow, but
months
sitting on
later.
top of the dust and shiny as shit.
Mm-hmm. Months,
So
months
sorry.
later, a month later. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just it's just
I wanted to
ridiculous.
tell you that one of the first things I did after watching them was I called up my girls. They were in their early 20s at the time, and well, they're still early 20s, but I called them up and said, "Girls, if you ever get arrested for anything, get a lawyer." I
Yeah.
said, "I don't care if you're guilty or not, get a lawyer. You know, they're not going to be guilty because they're good kids, you know, but
Right.
but
But
get
yeah,
a lawyer, not talk, get a lawyer because
yeah.
these guys are
If
crooked."
your default is to ask for a lawyer, they can't try to construe it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you're known for doing that just because it's the default setting for you, they can't try to construe that later as you must have felt guilty and that's why you wanted a lawyer. Because sometimes they will try to do that. They will.
It's
But if it's your default setting to ask for that, then that kind of
mm-hmm.
takes that away. So it is smart, even if you are a do-gooder or
Yeah,
somebody who doesn't, get into trouble. It's
yeah,
probably a good idea that if you're finding the cops are getting on you like that, to just say, "Look, I'll just have a lawyer come in and handle this real quick,"
yeah.
instead
Like,
of
am I under arrest or anything? If not,
exactly.
goodbye. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's what I will do now. Now that I know
yeah,
everything I
yeah,
know, as soon as I get the
yeah.
cup slapped on me, I'm gonna be like, "Okay, what am I arrested for?" First off, what am I arrested for? And then once they get me in there, and if they're trying to pin something on me I didn't do, I'm just gonna continue to say, "I have a right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer." And if they continue, I mean, how many hours will they keep me there repeating that? I don't know, but I will continue to repeat. I will not end up like Melissa Kaluzinski.
Oh, I
Melissa
know.
Kaluzinski, I mean, she did good for a really long time. And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually they started getting nasty with her. They started putting the full court press on her, basically. Basketball term, sorry. But they basically started putting the pressure on her and,
Yeah,
and, 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 and turning up the heat, and then she cracked. I mean,
it's just exhausted too,
it's yeah.
right?
You gotta be strong. You gotta know that you didn't do it, and you gotta. I
Yeah.
don't know. I've even thought about I would make fun of the officers interrogating me or trying to ask me about something I never did. I sometimes think I would be a smartass, but I think I probably would
Oh,
not in the end. I would
yeah.
probably just sit there and talk to them respectfully, even though they were disrespecting me, because, well, that's just the way I like to be.
That's
That's
how we're taught to be. Yeah,
yeah,
we're
that's
taught
what it
to
is on
respect.
my channel. I love having my channel open, my YouTube channel. I love having it open to everybody, because you see the people that disagree with me come in, and the comments that they make, or well, maybe used to make, until they realized that they were only making themselves look bad. A lot of them did. I don't see like Paul Capaldi did a video about Scott UK once. He called him Scott Yuck. Yeah, it was hilarious. It was a great video, and he was pointing out just the nasty person that he was. And I haven't seen Scott UK in months. I haven't seen him
Nice.
in months.
Good.
So I think
Even.
that they start to realize, they're only making themselves look bad. And that's another thing to tie in with what I was saying earlier about wanting, MAM supporters to take a little bit more of a gentle attitude with those guilters and those people that don't agree with us, and just try to say, "Look, hey, I'm not trying to tell you that this is the way it is. I'm just saying this is a fact. You said this, and this is the documents that prove that that's not correct." And
Mhm.
and to where it doesn't get charged with anger and like jealousy or hurt feelings of any kind, or anything, where it's just like, "Look, you said that, and this says that's not the case."
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
and do it
That's
respectfully,
more.
and
You get
and don't
hurt.
expect them to just jump right all over and think what you're thinking. That doesn't happen. Think about how hard it is for you to get your mind changed about something. Think
Mhm.
of how
Right.
hard somebody has had to work on you in the past to get you to eventually come around to something that you were unwilling to come around to. And we've all done it. We've all resisted something that we shouldn't have resisted in life. But eventually somebody worked on us and gently, coaxed us along until we got to the point where we went, "Oh, okay, that's why we do this." Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is in life.
Mhm.
And that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Be understanding. Be kind. Kind is the
I
word.
find I find myself sometimes in group not being so nice because, like, when I post, not to other people, but to like when I'm talking about 10 craps,
Oh yeah.
I'm not one to call them, rat craps or anything like that. I don't do that as much, but or at all even. But I will be like, oh, this jerk,
Yeah.
and we don't like swearing in that group either, but it's just my personal thing. But
Yeah.
I get a little out of hand, and when I go back and I look at some of the posts that I made when I first started out, it was when we bump things every now and then, things get bumped, and I look at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, why did I say that? But uh, but I had the wonderful experience. Who was that? Greasepock. I met Greasepock.
Oh really?
I was at the courthouse, and I don't remember, it was for one of the rallies or something, I believe, or maybe when we were waiting for Kathleen. I don't remember, but we were at the courthouse and we were doing a video, so it must have been a rally. And Greasepock was there, and I went in and I talked to him and I asked him. I don't even remember what I asked him, and I apologize, my memory's not so good anymore. But I was just talking. It took everything in me to not kick him in the balls and run. It was like I wanted to so badly, but I was very polite with him, and
Right.
and he even offered to sit down and talk to me later on about his book, and I was like, that'd be great, and in the background I'm thinking, I do not want to, I do not want to,
Yeah.
but it was something because my blood was boiling, but I was very poised and tried to be good, behave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I did a video about him recently. I was just like,
uh,
I had missed it on the first couple go rounds, but it was in MAM where Mark Rohr is saying that the actual packet that Michael Griesbach sent to the state capitol to PEG was missing the stuff about the Colburn call, I guess. All that stuff about the Brown County Police Department that called Manitowoc and told, Officer Colburn that they had somebody locked up for a crime that the person they have is admitting to, and everything, all that. I guess all that information was left out of the information that was sent. That was Rohr and Griesbach. Griesbach, the one who's been saying all along, no, I was with Steven on the first one.
Yeah.
I was totally on board. No, you weren't, Mike. No,
Wow.
you weren't, because you didn't even send the proper information up the stream, dude. You left some out, you idiot. Yeah, it's. I mean, it shows. So the more he tries to say, "Oh, yeah, but with the Teresa thing, no, he's actually guilty." No,
the truth always.
You were compromised, Michael.
Yep. Truth always gets revealed. That's my little hashtag, truth revealed, because the truth is revealed. Period. No matter what it is, it always comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
well, this has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we've covered a lot here today. We're at about the 50-minute mark, so that's probably a good spot. So it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Lovely speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll have to do this again sometime. Next time you got a few things that are burning your bonnet, just let me know, and we'll do a call and talk about it. So.
Will do. You should get your booty to that rally. I would love to see you. I'd love to meet you.
I'm going to try. Okay. We'll see you.
Well, thank you so much.
So that's pretty much concludes my call with Miss Lisa Szatkowski. I'm also going to be doing more of these videos. There's going to be other people that are expressing an interest to do a call to talk about some of the aspects of the case and even sometimes the community, as today. So I'll be, having some conversations coming up here in the future with some other folks who have been, very, very strong supporters for a very, very long time. And I absolutely am willing to give them the chance to say something to, a wider audience, or at least to say it in person, face to face, as it were, through the computer screen. So that's going to wrap it up for today, folks. I hope you liked it, and we'll see you later.